and the OOPS concepts, definitions. So we'll continue the same today. All right, where I was, I'm just checking. Okay, so you're right here. I was explaining about basic data types, which are primitive data types. These are called primitive. Primitive in the sense these are not the secondary data types like string is. String is not a primitive data type. So we don't consider that into it because it's a combination of characters. We will look into that as a separate class altogether. So we will continue explaining these and then we will move forward slowly. All right. So in the last class, I was explaining about Byte primitive data type, right? So this is the first primitive data type, and like the name suggests, it's a combination of 8 bits. Bit is the basic building block of computers, which is either 0 or 1. So I'll just write it here. Okay, it's actually outside, so this is right. So 0 or 1, which is a binary system, right? So either 0 or 1, and the whole machine language is in terms of zeros and ones only, and everything else we are just developing or understanding in terms of English, which is Java, which is more closer to English, so you can easily understand and write your logic. So then you will compile and it will be converted to machine language, and all the rest of it will take place like getting output and everything. Okay, so capacity is 8 bits and range is so and so, and we try to create one, right? So let's create again. Let me recreate, that was actually lost. So whenever you want to create some class, what you have to do? You have to right click on the package and create new class. All right. This is to create new Java project. So whoever has done or not done, so again I'm reiterating, create a new project first. Then in that project you create a new package in the source folder, and in that package you create a new class. Okay, so I'm showing it to you again because this is the same process. We are going to do it again and again. So don't worry about these. These are the little bit advanced, so we will go slowly into them. So I am creating the new class inside Java tutorial project source folder and test package, and this we are calling let's call it, last time we called Java practice or something, right? So let's call it appropriately. So this is for primitive data types, so I'll just put it accordingly. And each Java class must start with a capital letter, and each package must start with a small letter. So let's make a note of that too. So where are the notes? Right here. Project name first. Project name must start with capital letter, and then what is that package name, right? Package name must start with capital and each word with capital again. Oh, sorry, must start with small, lowercase, and then each new character, new word must start with capital letter. So that is called camel case actually. So it must start with lowercase letter and each word with a capital letter. Okay, so this naming convention is, this type of case is known as camel case because it's like camel. Okay, then coming to the class name or any interface name, anything, that resource name. Okay, class name must start with anyone, capital or small? Any guess?
Capital.
Capital. Okay, example I will give you. Example would be welcome.java. So this is how it should be. And every new word with a capital letter, that's by default. Okay, because this is a camel case because it starts with a lowercase, so it's like this. Okay, so project name, like you can say example, anything, automation project. Okay, so likewise, this is how every new word automatically should start with a capital letter. That is by default. So if you write it like a small letter, you don't. This is very confusing. What is what? It's like one word. So just to differentiate two words, you have to start every word with a small letter, capital letter. And just to show you example. So you can say library. Okay, you are creating library. Let's say it has to be like this, and library of method. Okay, so it should be like this. And there are inside the class you are going to create variables, right? Variables name. Any guesses? Variables name must start with what? How should this start?
Lowercase.
Lowercase, right? So example would be, for example, we are creating a data type the other day. So how do you create integer
Boolean
of person, like this? Camel case again, it's the same thing. Age of person. So that's how we create. So it's a camel case, lowercase, camel case. Camel case is, that means every other word starts with functions or methods. Methods and functions are both synonymous, so do not get confused. Variables and fields, sometimes we also call them as fields, right? So methods or functions names must start with same thing, lower camel case. Example would be you write a function public void calculate total price, like this, right? So we have written all that, and it takes integer a or something, integer b, something like this, and that should be it. Those are just notes just for your reminder. So we'll go back to this, and we are creating a class type. So I already mentioned, like I mentioned, it's capital letter is starting, and every new word must start with a capital letter. And like I told you, you have to check this box because you want to write something which is executable. If you don't check this box, that means it's a library. We are going into that later. A bit advanced. It's a reusability concept, which is a part of OOPS. So and modularization. Modularization in the sense we modularize, like this, compartmentalize. Okay, that's it. Do not check this generate comments because last to deal with a lot of comments. You can add the comments later. Okay, so that's going to create a new class now. Okay. Right, now we can do whatever we want to do. So this we are going to do it later because this involves little bit complexity in terms of creation of object and stuff like that. So don't worry, I'm going to go into that in a bit. Okay, so now whatever I am going to execute, I'm going to write it in a main function. All right, you can declare variables and global variables outside in the class, but outside the function. But I'm going to show you inside the method. That's easy. First, let's start with first primitive data type, right? So let's call primitive data types. First one is integer. This is how I am going to declare a variable. Oh, sorry. First one is byte. Let's go back to that again. Okay. Byte, and let's call this B. You can call it whichever. This is how I declare a variable. I just declare the variable like this, isn't it? Byte is a data type followed by the variable name, okay, and followed by semicolon. Okay, so then there is no issue. If the yellow color means it's a warning. That means it's actually warning that you have not assigned any value to it, or you have not used it. Okay, that's fine. You can ignore the warnings, but you cannot ignore the red color things, which are errors, right? Use it. So for now, it's fine. Okay, now I can initialize this value two ways. I can initialize directly here, right? Or if you just declare it and then you want to assign it here, this is also acceptable. Okay, so for the simplicity's sake, what we will do, we'll assign and declare at the same line. So this is, now you have, what is the range? -128 to +128. Okay, what happens if you do not assign the value inside the range like this? Automatically you will get an error. So that is the indication. So even if you do not remember, like most of us do, remember them, you will get an error. So you can immediately resolve. That is the indic check. Mismatch cannot convert from integer to into byte. So it is actually treating, Eclipse is saying, Java virtual machine is saying, hey, this you are trying to value or integer value inside the byte. So why don't you declare this as integer? It's saying the other way around. So you have to understand. But since you want a byte only, so you just decrease the value. Or if you by mistake you declare it as byte, then just put it in integer. Okay. So since we are learning, so let's go to byte. So I'll declare byte and assign a value like this, and we will print it at the end. That is the first primitive data type, right? What is the second primitive data type? Exactly double the first one, byte, 8 bits, then 16 bits. Okay, 8 bits in the sense exactly 8 bits, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Not exact. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Okay, in terms of binary system, you have to talk about. So it will look like this 8 bits, and it can hold that capacity. And these will be like in terms of ASCII and conversion, it will actually adhere to that 8. This is our indication. In decimal system, this is the range. In binary system, this is the range. Simple as that. So binary system 8 bits means it will look like this in the machine language. 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, something like this. Exactly 8 bits. We already know that 0 is 1 bit or 1 is 1 bit, right? So 8 bits. Okay, so let's not talk about the machine language at all, because we are not going to do any programming machine language or anything close to that. We are going to do that in an English language, which is Java mainly. Okay. Type which is exactly double the size, right? Range is this much, 32k plus 32k, and default value is 0. So default means if I do not assign a value like this, it will be taken as 0. That's what it means. Okay, so short yes, and I can go for negative also. It's always negative and positive, both included. Okay, we can take this. I'm taking short, which is not byte. So this cannot be declared as byte. Integer is the third one. Yeah, I just connected with phone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. How about system? Can you see the screen?
No.
Okay. So it's actually saying connecting to audio, and it seems to. I mean, from my side, it's fine, but you're not able to see my screen. Okay. Let me reconnect. Okay, if this comes password and range is 3 seconds. Go to meeting. Five, six, six, 5, 6, 6, 4, 4, 4, 6, 4, 3, 7. It is because it's already on. It looks like this. Okay, I'm going to disconnect from phone, so I just got logged in from that. Yeah, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Oh, you can't. Eclipse? Eclipse.
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm going to reshare. I don't know how to share the screen. Share. Screen. Okay. Oh, it's echoing. That's okay. Hello. Hello. It's okay. Keep it on. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, now I see.
Okay, great. Okay. Let's continue. Fine. So short variable and assign a value, then integer variable, call this x, and what is the range? Range is somewhere between these two. Okay, so I can take any value between this because it's a very wide range, and I want to include this, which is not short byte but same. Okay, so the fourth primitive data type is double the same size, double the integer size, which is long, and its range is 64 bits or some 9 billion to plus 9 billion. So exactly not like that. It's 9 billion, some 23,372,000, blah, blah, blah. So that's not the point. So the point is it's a very wide range. Okay, so let's try to use this. So let's call this long L. Okay, just for the sake of simplicity, I'll put I only here. So I can take a bigger range, negative or positive. So let's take this. Okay, so okay, it seems to be a little bit bigger. Let's reduce this. Still reduce this. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so after long, now we have to deal with floating points too, because the integer and long can only hold non-fractional symbols. That means only the numbers which do not have the fractional part. Now, how do I store 1.2 or something like that? Then there comes the floating point number, floating points. Okay, float or double are the floating point numbers. Okay. Okay, so float and double are the floating point numbers. Okay, let's try to define them clearly. Okay, so float is not double the size of long, but is exactly similar to integer, and it's a counterpart of float. So its capacity is 32 bits only. Okay, but it can hold fractional part like 1.2. So integer and float are similar in the capacity perspective, and can be like this: 1.4 e exponential minus 0.45 to 3.4 e plus 0.38. Okay, so don't worry about this range. So all we need to know is float is like exactly similar to integer, but it can hold fractional part also. Let's try to use it. So let's call it f, and I want to store 23 point something like this. Now it's a little bit.
I have a question.
Okay, it's double. Let's see double. Yeah, go ahead.
So So when you write, whenever you write, say Java, do you have to always declare this data first, or is it whenever you need it?
Whenever you need it, you don't declare just like that, because just for the learning sake we are declaring and defining, initializing the variables. But only if I need, according to my automation script or development code, I will declare them, because every time you declare a variable, it's gonna create some space, occupy space in the JVM. That means it's just like creating a file. And when you create a file, according to its data, it takes some space in your hard drive, right? It is similar to that. And the more variable you declare, and more variable you assign the values to, it's gonna take some space, and which is gonna affect the performance of the script, automation script or development, the application, whatever you're working on. So only on the need basis we have to declare them. Okay, double is actually gonna store 64 bits. Okay, so the example is like this, and then comes char, character related. Okay, so char is the one, and char stores any single character from A to Z, capital or small, right? And char, let's say C equals something like I want to store A, then I can use char. Okay, now you can say, how do you store this, like ABC, or like something like Java? Okay, I cannot, because that's a string, and we are going to learn about strings separately, because string is a separate chapter, string is a separate class altogether, and it is not considered as a primitive data type. Primitive in the sense it's a basic, it's not basic. What are the basic? Only 8 data types are basic. Whatever I mentioned here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and Boolean is a last primitive data type, and like the name suggests, Boolean is can hold either true or false only. Okay, so let's say this B, and it is either true or false. Okay, only one. So we just declared the variables. Okay, now there is some problem. What is the problem? Can anybody identify? It's showing in red color, and anybody quickly can identify? Let me know.
You declare already byte B equal 1 to 3. So you declare B on top.
Right. The byte B variable name is already used, and you're declaring it as a boolean again. That is a duplicate.
We can,
So
yeah,
you have to rename it, change it. So the duplicate variables are not allowed in Java. If you want to use them, just use them like
we can view
like this. So let's call this flag, because Boolean is normally considered as a flag. So let's use flag. So okay, what is the question? Okay, so no questions. We can move forward.
I have one question.
Yes, go on.
Can you explain why is the Boolean equal to B? Why is not like considered? Can you explain again?
Boolean is equal to, say that again.
Yeah, you put B before. It was the error, but why is not taking? Can you explain again? Why?
Why is not it take? It's not taking B again.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's a duplicate variable, because I have already used B, right? B is declared as byte, and and that means once you declare a variable, with certain name, you cannot use the same name for a different variable. That's a fundamental rule. Okay, I'll make a note of it. Otherwise, it would be considered duplicate. So just hover over the error sign, and it will say duplicate local variable B. It is clearly saying the value of the local variable flag is not used. Okay, that is the second, but first is the important one because it's saying duplicate local variable B, because the first things are taken into consideration first. It comes from the top to down, right? So this is already reserved. It's not complaining about this, it's complaining about this. So now you can change either this or this, it doesn't matter. I want to change this. Now it's not a duplicate anymore. So you cannot use the same variable twice. That's the whole point. So let's make this flag. Since this is just for the initial purpose, I'm just putting some brand names just for the short form of the same data type. But you can use anything according to your requirement. So integer could be age, right? Anything like that. So let's move forward. If you have any questions, you can let me know related to data types, primitive data types, and you can print it. Printing is just for showing the output immediately. Sysout is a shortcut control space. It's gonna type this for me, correct? Now you can say the value of, let's say, what do you want to print? Let's say double, value of double variable equals. Now you have to concatenate this with using plus sign with another. So this is whole of this is a string, right? String is a collection of characters. So don't worry, it's not a part of primitive data type concept. First we are printing it. So I want to print D. Now let's see if it is able to print it or not. So likewise, you can print all of these. So that's, you can enhance this. I am going to share these scripts on the daily basis. So you can, first things first, you have to install Eclipse and configure it. Okay, otherwise you will not be able to do any further this thing practice. So it just prints like this. You can print others. That's your homework. Can you do that? So I'm going to just mention homework here. What you're going to do is print all other variable values to the console, so that it will be like practice for you. So initially, so just on the daily basis you practice, so that you don't get don't lag behind. Okay, now every class, okay, so whatever variables I declared here, like I was saying, each of these variables are going to occupy some space in the Java virtual machine, JVM. Okay, now these are going to occupy some space, and there are something called in real time, every object has some properties and methods, correct? So like if I take a pen is an object and it has properties. Color is a property and value is, it could be blue or something. Height is a property and it could be like 2.3 inches. Weight, the property, and its value is 3.4. Okay, and it has cap. Has cap is a property, yes or no. Okay, it has cap, yes, and has a switch. Okay, that's a property. And yeah, no, that means it doesn't have a switch. Okay, and methods means what it can do or not do. So it can write. Okay, can write, cannot poke. Okay, you can still poke, but you cannot poke, let's say. So the properties will be used to identify the object primarily, and methods are going to explicitly say what it can or cannot do. So the same concept is being applied to the programming language Java also. Every object has some properties and methods. Okay, can or cannot, whatever it can be. Okay, so let's do some let's throw some light on them. Okay, so these are variables and this is a class, right? Now these are all, when I do not say anything, these are all non-static variables. Non-static means they can have their own copies of them according to the objects I am going to create, right? Now there are some static variables too. So if I mention something like static, that means they belong to the class. That means they do not have copies. So if I can make copies, I can make, I don't have to make copies, right? So those are the static and non-static. So I'm going to explain about those static and non-static concept. Okay, let's take another class instead of using the same class. I already created one. Let's go into this. Okay, so in order to demonstrate this, I created two new classes in the library. So library is another package. So why did I create that? Because I want to use some reusable functions. Just for using the reusability, I created. So whatever we want to reuse, just create once and use them many times. That's the reusability concept. So in order to do that, we can create those functions in that. So let's take a static demo. Let's go to this. Okay, so I just created a class, all right, simple class, and I created a method, right, my static method, and every method has some data return type and some arguments or not, right? 4 types. We have already seen those 4 types. What are those? The method that accepts argument returns a value, and accepts arguments do not return a value, accept do not return arguments but returns a value, do not accept arguments do not return a value. So we can create 4 types of methods, and this particular method lies in one of those categories. And what is it category? It does not return anything, does not accept anything. So I'm just creating, just to show you a static concept, I'm just printing something. So my static method, okay, so every static method, okay, or variable must precede with the word static, which is a keyword. All right, okay, so I'm naming it as a static demo just to show you guys. Okay, now that is in the library. Now I'm coming back to this. Okay, one more for non-static demo. Okay, let me go to the non-static, and it is created in the library again, and simple. So the non-static do not have any static word. It's just like public void name of the function. That's it. Okay, everybody is able to understand? If not, let me know immediately. I'm creating a simple function, okay, which does not take any does not return any value, void, does not take anything. That's fine. Okay, so my demonstration is for the non-static, so I'm just not putting static here. That means it is static. Okay, this means it's non-static. Just to see if I'm calling a non-static as static, I'm just putting a system.println my non-static method. Okay, so one thing is static means it belongs to the class. Okay, and non-static means it can have multiple copies. Okay, so let me go ahead and write this for you. I think it's already written.
Sangam, sir, I just can I ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I sent a mail to you, so requesting with the recording of the of our classes. So can I get all the classes, our recording classes of the Java and everything?
Recording.
I just received only a text and not recording. That's why I just asked for the recording.
Right. You can ask Asad for the recordings. I don't record. So when this session goes on, right, it
Yeah.
is recorded automatically. But the recording sessions are held with. So this session is
How will I
being recorded.
get it then? If it is automatically recorded, then how will I get it?
No, you don't. Asad has to share them explicitly. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay, that
yeah.
will be fine. So if he shared.
Yeah. So he probably is going to put them in the shared local drive and share the link with you. So
Oh,
you can
thank you.
ask later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask Asad later.
Yeah. So can I get this class recording later on?
Sure. Yeah. All the recordings you can get from the. This is like 6th or 7th class, right? You can get those recordings.
Oh,
So
great.
you can ask or ping Asad after this class. This
Sure.
will be later because he has to, I think, download that and upload it to Drive.
You know, if I get immediately, then after your classes, if I gone through the
So that
recording, that is more easier for me to understand.
I understand. Yes. Yeah, that you can ask immediately so that Asad can upload immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Because this is I'm not the organizer of this meeting. I'm just I'm just in.
I know. Okay, I will ask. Okay.
Recorded in my local.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we are talking about the static, right? So static means when I apply static keyword, okay, static keyword to a variable or a method, okay, that means it belongs to the class. That means it's original. There are no copies. You can make copies, but you can call it using the class name directly. So there is no need for it. Okay. So what is it meant by non-static? Non-static means if you do not put a word static, automatically it means non-static, either variable or method. So a non-static variable or method, okay, that means you have to create an instance. Okay, I'll make sense of the sentence. To access a non-static variable or method, you need to create an instance. Okay, instance means object here. Okay, object of the class. Okay, and then access the variable or method. Okay, that means you're actually creating a copy. Okay, you can create as many copies by creating as many instances. Instances are objects, so we'll see that. So simply, if you do not mention anything, it is by default it's non-static. And if you want to make a variable or method static, then you mention the word static. That's the end. And what does it mean by static? It means it belongs to class. There are no copies. Okay, that means it is good for the memory allocation wise, because just one copy, no need for copies, right? But if non-static, if you want to access those methods or variable, you need to create an instance and instances, and each object obviously will take more space. Memory consumption wise, it's bad, but you need to, if you want to make non-static, if you don't want to make static, do not make everything static. So if you want to create instance, that's fine, because some cases we have to create objects, and that is fine. So we will see the practical aspect of this, when to create static and when not to create static. So okay, so let's go to the Eclipse directly. Okay, so here I'm not mentioning the static, that means it is non-static. So I'm only taking the method here. Okay, you can apply this to the variable also. Just create a variable and do it. Okay, Now in the library I created static and non-static, and in the test I'm going to call it. Why I'm going to call it? Because of the reusability purposes, just for the simple reusability. Okay. Now I created two instances of these two classes, static demo. Okay, so this is how you create an object of static demo. Static demo, and the instance name equals new keyword. New is a keyword, and static demo. Okay, so that's actually a, this means it's going to access the constructor. Don't worry what constructor is, I will explain later. Same thing for non-static demo. I'm creating another instance.
So I have a question. So if I write a static, it's the main method should be written. Like you're gonna write the method in the static in static void, right?
Right. This is always static. Main is always static.
On the public void, then I can't write the method, right? Like whatever you have written, that is static demo SCL, then it's equal to new static.
No, I didn't get the question. Say that again.
If I in main method, you write here in public static void, so the user can use the method, like we can use the method like we
void main is just for executable code. So if you want to execute any code, I have to write it inside this main. Okay, just
yeah.
For the sake of simplicity, let's hold on to that. So it is public because you have to be able to access from outside class. Static because this main belongs to the class, you cannot make copies of it. Void means it does not return anything. There is no need for main to return anything, but it can take arguments if you are running if you want to pass runtime arguments, like such as environment name, or you want to run it in a special environment, or you want to provide some input values, like if you want to add 3 and 4 and you want to pass 3 and 4 runtime, then you can add this. But if you pass these variables runtime, then you have to run it in a special way, not just run, but run as a configuration. So I showed you last time, this is how we run Java application. But if you want to pass some values to the main, then you have to run configuration. So I'll show you. This is not the ideal way, so that's why I didn't focus on that. Okay, now this is the class name, main class, right? This is the project name. Now let's say I want to pass some values, something runtime, because it needs some manual intervention. This is not good for the main automation, but just for the sake of this I can tell you. So let's say you want to pass some name, Sangam, and you want to print whatever name I pass, like my name is this Sangam, let's say. Now if I accept this, it will be passed as a runtime argument. You can pass many arguments, like whatever. So these are 3 arguments. Now it can take any number of arguments. Okay, then apply and run. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now what it will do, it will, because it can take string array, don't worry what is string array, I'll tell you later. String array, it will be able to take all these, then you can read it from runtime arguments here. Okay, that I'll show you later. That's just for single example, it would be okay. So that's the reason the whole signature is like this for the main. Public static void means string args. So for the time being, you just take it for granted that you just need to use that as executable code. Whatever code you want to execute, just put it inside this. Okay, that's all you remember for now, because the more we go into that, the more complex it is.
Whatever I understand, in main public static void main, which is the main class, all the method and everything will be here, and and public void class is without the method, like which is not a main classes.
It's not a class method.
Main classes and which is public void is not main classes.
No. You're getting confused. Class is this.
Yeah.
Okay. So everything is a class in Java. These are all classes, right? Public, class, static, and non-static. Don't worry. After the static, I'll go back to basics, because static chapter came. I am just showing you. We will come back to this. And I want to execute something Okay, really I just want to call some method static way and some method non-static way. Okay, remember this. In this class there is no main because I am not trying to execute anything here. I just created a method here. That's it, right? Because this is not executable. I don't want to execute. I want to call this. Okay, just for the time being, you remember this. I'm just going to call this. Where I'm going to call this static demo in another class.
Main.
Okay, exactly in main, because I want to execute this. I have to call this in the main.
So,
okay,
so main method is going to execute and understand.
Right. Don't worry. Some things you have to take it for granted initially, but because that's how it is. You have to come back to that in order to understand it fully. So don't worry. It is like this. So okay. Now what I'm trying to do here, instantiation or object creation. Okay, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah, for object creation, we can create the main vector, main static void. Yeah. Okay.
Huh. Yeah. So just hold on to this. Trust me. I'll make you understand everything. Now, in order to access the method inside a class, I have to create an instance of it or object, and this is my object. This is the nomenclature of it. Class name, your own variable or instance name, that's object name, equals new keyword. Okay, new means it's a new keyword. It's creating a new copy of it. Okay, and this is the constructor. Yeah, so you can make any number of copies. Let's say I want to make another copy of static demo. Can I do that? Yes. Let's say sc2 equals new static demo. Okay, now this is going to make another copy of it, and you can use that copy. Okay, but the more copies, the more memory it will occupy. So we have to be careful. Okay, now non-static demo also I'm creating a copy. Okay, creating an object. Now the static function belongs to the class. That's what I said, right? Static function belongs to the class, so I can use that method in a static way using the class name directly. Okay, so this is a static method. My static demo has my static method, and I am calling it using the class name directly, static demo dot my static method. Okay, so how do you know my static method is static method? You just created it. So if you want to verify, just press control and it will become a hyperlink and click key, and it will go to that, and you can see it's static. So this method belongs to the class static demo. Right? Okay, now let's come back to this. Let's access the static method in a can be accessed in non-static way also. What is a non-static way? Using the object copy. Now I just made a copy of static demo class, which is SC. SC is my copy, right? Using that SC also I can access this my static method, either static demo dot my static method or SC dot my static method, right? But this is not the ideal way, because I declared the my static method as static, and you have to use the class name. That means you should not make a copy. Here I'm making a copy. It is not an error. It's just a warning. Okay, but it's you, if you want to do it, but it's a non-ideal way of doing it. So you stick to this if you make any variable or method static. Okay, now let's go to the non-static method. Non-static method can be accessed in a non-static way. What is the non-static way? Using the copy object. What is the non-static methods object instance? NSC, right? Non-static demo is NSC. NSC is the object. Using that NSC, I can access my non-static method. That is the ideal way of non-static. Now, how do you know my non-static method is a non-static method? Because I just created so, and you can verify it. Control click, and you can see there is no static word. That means it's non-static. Non-static does not belong to the class. It belongs to the instances of the class. Instances means objects of the class. And the only way to access them is using the instance NSC. Okay. Now, if I want to call it in a static way, can I do that using non-static class dot my non-static method? So see this non-static demo. Okay, non-static demo dot my non-static method. Is it possible? I just commented it because it's not possible. So let's see and try and uncomment it and see if it is possible or not. Is it going to throw an error or not? So it is going to throw an error. What is the error? You are trying to access a non-static method in a static way. That's an error. So you can hover over it and see what is the non-static class cannot be resolved because this is a non-static class and you are trying to access a method inside this class using the class name, and that is not allowed because non-static methods have to be accessed in a non-static way using the instance only. Okay, so that is the conceptual concepts about non-static and static. Okay, don't worry if you do not understand fully. Even if you understand 50%, I understand that you understood just 50 or 40%. That is fine because we are going to use this static and non-static over and over again. So, okay. Now let's do a simple.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you hyperlinking it, is taking you somewhere else. Where does it stay? Like where you have this class?
Definition. I'll show you. Don't worry, I got you. Hyperlinking is not made by me. It is automatically done by the Eclipse. Hyperlink, when you press Control and hover over some function, it will take you to the definition of the function. That's hyperlinking, which is done automatically. We don't have to do this. It's like jumping to the definition, because if I don't, if it is not hyperlinked, I have to search for it, right? That will be cumbersome. I have to search where this function is, in which class I defined it. That will be very cumbersome. You don't have to remember that all these things. Okay, so now just to avoid this error, I'm going to comment this non-static way of calling from a non-static function. So I'm just putting this as an example, but not allowed. This is a comment, so you can read it and understand, hey, this is not allowed. Okay, let's try to create some reusable functions first, because you have to understand that in the first place in order to come back to this. Okay, now let's create some reusable functions, and I'll show you how to create. It is just to create some functions. Okay, so we are not executing them. That's why I don't need any main function. Okay, so now let me maximize this so that you can see the whole area. So when we run it, we can show the console. Right now it's not required, right? Okay, now try and understand this carefully. Now I created a class called Arithmetic Demo, okay, in library, because I'm going to create some library functions. What are the library functions? Library functions are those reusable functions which I can define just one time and use them many times. And this way you can easily apply the reusability concept. Reusability. What is the reusability? Which is very important concept in Java. Reusability means create once and use many times. Okay, if you do not have reusability, you have to create many times in order to use many times. That will be very, very cumbersome, right? So you just create once, and as many times you want to use them, use them. That's the whole concept. Okay, as usual, I created a class. I'm not creating a new class again and again because I already showed you. So you can create a class now. So I'm just explaining, and you can ask questions immediately. Do not hold, because it is very important for you to understand this concept and practice later. That's how you get used to it. Okay, I created a class. How do you create a class? I am not going to explain again because you know how to create a class. Right click on that and just create a new class. All this, it will create a class. Do not check the checkbox public static void main, because it's a reusable function. Okay, if you check public static void main, that means you are going to run it. We are going to run it in a separate class in tests. So these are just functions, reusable functions. Okay, now there is a constructor. Okay, constructor means it's a function whose name matches with the class name, exactly similar. Okay, and its access modifier should be public class name, and don't accept any arguments, and that is called the default constructor. Now, whatever you put inside, I just put a systemout.println. In short, sysout. I'm going to call this sysout. Okay. What is this sysout is used for? Just to print something to the console, just for your purpose, understanding. So I'm saying I'm printing this is a default constructor. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of it? What is the purpose of default constructor? Now, whenever you create a default constructor, okay, it will be automatically executed as and when the class is instantiated. Okay. Now there are a bunch of new words I used. Okay, instantiated. Even though I explained it, it's still new for you. How do you instantiate? We are going to see in the test class. Okay, just to show you where we are going, we are dealing with this arithmetic demo. Okay, I'm going to create some functions which will do the very basic arithmetic like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, blah blah blah. Simple, just to explain you the concept. Okay, now I am going to create in this. This is the library, and I am going to call all these functions in arithmetic test. So just for your understanding purposes, I use the name demo for the library, arithmetic demo. That means it's library, and arithmetic test, same name, appended to test. That means I'm going to call all this from demo to the test. So likewise, all these are there. So don't worry, just focus on this arithmetic right now. Okay, so first and foremost, when I instantiate this class arithmetic demo in this, why I am going to instantiate? Because without instantiating this class or without creating an object or copy of this class, I cannot access any of these methods or variables from this, which are non-static. Okay, so that is why we have to instantiate. Now, what is the purpose of default constructor? Default constructor, without calling, immediately when you instantiate this class, immediately it will be called and executed. Now, why we are doing it? Because there are some things which you need to do automatically. The purpose. Okay, so I need to do something. So just here I'm just printing something, but in some cases I need to load some values, initialize some variables values immediately, default values. So all those things can be done in the constructor. That is the main purpose. But here just using this for the purpose of printing something, just for the understanding. So how do you know? Whenever you instantiate, it will be printed. First and foremost thing it will do is to print this is a default constructor. Then immediately you will know, hey, this is called. Okay, so that is why I'm putting this out. Okay, now there are many built-in functions, for different purposes. Okay, I can create. I can use them from string class. Okay, we are going to look into them later, but we can also create some functions, and those are called user-defined functions. Okay, now I am going to create a first function of that sort, user-defined, for addition purposes. Now you know how to create a function. Okay, public and data type, return data type, and function name and arguments list. Okay, so this is a basic syntax of any function, right? Now you name it appropriately. Add is my function name. Okay, now what is my purpose of this? My purpose of this function is to add two numbers a and b and return that sum. Okay, now since these two are integers, I am just adding those a and b, a plus b. Okay, I am declaring a variable integer called c, and what I'm storing in it, I am storing a sum of a and b, which is a plus b. Okay, plus is what kind of operator? What does the plus do? Just like in math, it's arithmetic operator. Okay, I told you in the last class. Just like a plus, regular math plus, it will do the addition. Okay. Now I want to print it. Why I'm printing it? I want to see the output. That is why I'm printing. Okay, sys out again. The sum of a and b. I am concatenating clearly so that you can see it clearly in the output. The sum of a and b is c, so that you can say what numbers you are adding and what is the output. I have to return because the return type is mentioned. It's not void, right? Now, since the return type is something, you have to return the value. What I want to return? Just return the sum, addition of it, addition of the two numbers. Now, you can use this returned value in whichever you want to in this test. later because we are returning, and you can also print it separately. And what I'm doing inside this function also I'm printing, and you can also do many things with it because it's written. Okay, now let's create another function, subtract, and simply I'm subtracting one from another, and it's going to tell me the difference of it, negative or positive, and I'm printing same thing. Same way product, and I am applying the another arithmetic operator, multiplication, which is star mark. Okay, so every function has a name, return type, and the arguments list. And in this case, appropriately, I'm accepting 2 arguments. You can also accept 3 arguments if you want to multiply 3 numbers, and integer, and returning an integer. And division, same thing. I'm accepting 2 integers, dividing one by another, and returning the quotient. So when 4 is divided by 2, it returns quotient. And then, okay, let's not go into these concepts, polymorphism, because it's going to little bit complicated. So all we have to do right now is call them, because we just define the functions, and that is halfway. Okay, unless and until we call them, we don't know what the output is. So I created a functions in this library, and I created another class in the test package. Okay, now let's call these functions. Now you have to do now you have to check that checkbox which says public static void main. Correct. Why? Because you want to execute this class. Okay, now first and foremost, if you want to call some of these methods, what you have to do, you have to instantiate this class arithmetic demo. Now what is the syntax for instantiating or creating an object? Class name, your object name equals new, and constructor. That means class name with a bracket open, bracket close, parenthesis. That's it. Simple. You will get used to it again. Now using this object, I can access addition, subtraction, multiplication, division functions. Right? Now let's do that. Okay. Now I want to access addition. So obj.add. Okay. So let me show it to you so that you will know how to access. So let's take this off. Because it's already created, you don't know how I am writing in the first place, right? So let's obj is the instance, right? Obj dot. Now as and when you press dot, it will show all the available methods. Okay, you can choose from it. Now what I want to choose, I want to add 2 numbers, so I will choose add method, and it is asking me to enter these numbers. These are the arguments, that is the list of arguments that is being accepted by the add. It will show. Now you can fill the actual numbers. Now I want to add 3 and 6. Okay, and you have to end it with a semicolon. Okay, now just hover over it, and it will show you the signature of this whole function. Arithmetic demo is a class name, dot add. Okay, it will show the class name. That's fine, because it's not acceptable here because it's non-static, but it will show here, just for your understanding. And it is accepting integer A, integer B, and it is returning an integer. Now it's return type in integer, so I can actually store it in another integer called sum. Okay, now I can store this value. So it is returning something of type integer, and I can store it in an integer called sum. And it is already printing something, so I can just immediately execute it and see. Okay, so let's execute and see what it is going to do. So all the rest of it, I'm going to comment it so that you don't see the other things. So Control Shift / will bulk comment so that you don't have to execute the rest of it. We will execute them slowly, one by one. First instantiated, then I am calling one of the functions. Okay, now how do you execute? Click on this. Okay, when you try to click on this, what's showing? It is trying to, it might execute the previous one, primitive data types or something else, right? So be careful. So the best way to execute the current class is right click in it and run as Java application. Okay, Now you can also do this way. On the left side also you can click on the file and Java application. Okay. Now what we are going to see as the output, the sum of the two numbers in a descriptive way. So okay, since I opened in the full screen, it is showing the output on the right side. That's fine. Console. I can put it in the down side also. That's fine. Now what did I tell you? The default constructor is the first thing which is called, and it is. This is a default constructor. That means it is automatically called because I instantiated the arithmetic object. Okay, let's put this down way so that you will see. Okay. Okay, now you can see the code and the output clearly. So as and when this is instantiated, this line is executed. Okay, then we printed some banner addition down below, and then the addition function is called. And what I'm trying to add 3 and 6, so it just printed the sum of 3 and 6 is 9. Right? Is it correct? So similarly, we can execute others also. You can execute the same function again and again by passing different values. And I exactly try to do the same thing here. So I'm going to shift this commented portion down below so that we can see more examples of addition. Okay, object dot add 1, 3. This is going to add 1, 3. Object dot add different numbers. Okay, let's try and execute this again. Okay, so I'm just calling this function again and again, right? So am I also defining this function addition and again? No. What I did was I just defined this one time in library arithmetic demo and calling this many times in arithmetic test in the test. And what is this concept called? This concept is called reusability. That is a main concept in Java. Just create one time, but I can use this many times so that I don't have to define this add what it is every time for 1 and 3, for 112K, for 0 and 23 million, whatever. I don't have to redefine. And that concept is called reusability, and which is very important. Okay, now I want to print the difference of two numbers. Now what would you have to do? You simply have to define that function in the library, and exactly we did here. Difference, let's call it subtract, and all I have to do is just use the arithmetic operator minus, and it's going to put this value in C, and I can print it and return it too. You don't have to return it, then just put void. It's up to you. Okay, now let's come back to the test and call it. Now how do you call this again? You can create another instance also, but you don't need to. Okay, another copy is not required. Like I said, more copies, more memory, right? So I can use the same object instance because all the functions are defined in the same class arithmetic demo. So again, object dot, let's call the difference function. Difference function is like subtract function. Okay, now object dot subtract, it will call, and it will ask you to enter some numbers for which you want to find the difference. So I entered 5 and 6, other numbers, some negative numbers, some 0 and other number, and it will find the subtraction of all of these. So all you have to do is object dot, and you can autofill it or select from the list, or you can type it also, it doesn't matter. Now if I run it, the difference of 5 and 6 is -1. It's actually 5 minus 6, not 6 minus 1. That's why it's negative. So you can enhance the test. So if you want only the absolute number, I mean without negative value, you can make an absolute of it. Okay, so that you don't see. But let's see the actual difference from left to right. And same thing for the difference of other two numbers is so and so, so and so, so and so. You can have as many, you can have this called as many times as you want, but the concept is you just define one time. So now if you want to make little bit changes to this subtraction. All right, I just want to find the difference without the negative number. Okay, let's go to this subtract. All you have to do is hyperlinking is already done, like I said. So just press Control, keep pressing it, click, hover over this. Okay, it will become hyperlink. Click on it. Now it will jump to this from here to here to exact definition, exact place where it was defined, so that you can do modifications. Let's say I want exact the difference, not just the difference, but the positive difference or absolute difference. Then you can modify it and come back and rerun it. It will show this for you. Okay. Now A can be bigger, B can be smaller, or A can be smaller, or B can be bigger. So accordingly it will show, right? Now I don't want to see -1. I want to see 1 because the difference of 5 and 6 is 1, right? I mean, it's not 5 minus 6 or 6 minus 5. So I want to take a absolute value. So let's see, we can take an absolute value or not. So let's define, or we can modify the value. C equals to absolute of C. Okay. So what is this function now? Okay, let's see. Absolute is not function. Okay, it is actually asking you to define absolute. There is a built-in function which takes the value which you can use it. So those are called built-in functions. Let's see what is the built-in function. Absolute value. Let's try to Google it. So in some cases you don't recall it, you can actually Google it. Okay, so there is a site called for Java. Most of the Java related doubts or queries, stackoverflow.com, or you can just Google it. It will show the first hit as from that site. So let's see, if we get lucky, we will see. Okay, now I want to take the absolute value. So my query is how to get absolute value in Java. Okay, so see, now this is how anybody would do. Okay, so now I want to see where this function is, the Java lang.math.apps. Okay, that's the one. I tried to use apps immediately, it wouldn't show it because it belongs to math package. Okay, so you have to put the full package name, or you have to import this package explicitly, java.lang.math. Okay, let's try to do this again. So java.lang. Okay, so that's a function, and if you put dot again, it will show the others. Okay, let's see if we have math. Yes, there is math. Okay, now this has apps. That is the full path of this function. Okay, now every time I don't want to repeat this, right? So if you don't want to repeat this, what you can do, you can simply import it. Now I'll show you how to import this here. It will import it for you, but you should be able to know how to import it also. Now I want to use Java is the topmost package and lang is its sub package. Okay, this will import all the sub packages .star. So it will be not good because it might import which are not required, the packages which are not required and which are required. So we don't want that because of the, again, it will reduce the performance of the script. Execution time will be drastically increased instead of reduced. Okay, so java.lang.math Okay, I just import it and come back here. Now, since I imported it, I don't have to use the complete path of it. So this would be sufficient. So earlier, if I tried to use this, what it did was, okay, it is still showing. So let's use the math dot at least. And yeah, so that should be fine too. Okay, so you still have to use the class name because it actually is it belongs to the class. Okay, so we can use dot star here, that's fine. It's building because I just put dot star. So when it is building, you have to wait for until it builds 100%. Okay, come back to this subtract. Now it will take, what I'm trying to do is, irrespective of whether it is negative or positive, just take positive, absolute value. That's what it means, right? Now put this value again back into C. I'm just using the same variable, just modifying it. And I'm just modifying the sysout also. The absolute difference of A and B is positive only, and returning this C. Now it will be returning the positive C. Okay, now what we will do, we will try to rerun this test again and see the every difference is positive or not. Okay, let's try and run this. Okay, so I just am interested in the absolute difference of 5 and 6. 6 minus 1 or 5 minus 6, it doesn't matter for me, so I just took it here. Okay, so that's how you modify, create the reusable functions and modify them. Okay, we will see 2 more functions and call it a day. So the fourth one is product.
Question.
Yes, go on. You should ask question.
When you have a system.out in next to n and you have a lot of sign for numbers, do you have to do it, or is it automatically come from the absolute difference of this one?
No, in this case I use the absolute function explicitly. This is actually built-in function. Built-in function means the function is already there in the Java. When you download Java, it will come along with it. I just need to import it. This is the user-defined function. That means we are creating it. We are defining it as a user. Okay. Now your question is why we call system out.println, and is it right?
Right, the absolute difference of A plus whatever, right? When you are testing it, it has some number sign. So do you have to write those, or it comes automatically? That's my question.
What number sign? So it exactly printed as I defined here, the absolute difference of plus. Plus is a concatenation operator. It won't be printed. It is just appending this string to the variable. So whenever I have to mix string and variable, I have to use concatenation operator. Okay. Now absolute difference of space A is replaced by the number you are entering here. Whatever number I passed here, that will be printed. That is the whole point. So here I am passing 5. So that 5 and 6 equals to, now whatever the sum is. So the sum is what? Now C, right? What is the C? C is actually the absolute value of A minus B, and that will be printed. Are you clarified or still having any doubt?
No, go to the test class.
Okay.
Line number 34. You have to write that one, or it comes automatically?
Oh, this one. Okay, you're saying about the banner. You should say so. Banner is printed above. Okay, you're not able to see. This I have to write it. So the reason I printed the banner is to segregate between addition and subtraction, separated, so that you can understand. This is just for the visibility purposes. This is just, I am writing to segregate addition from difference. It's like \n will take new line. Okay, this is the end, right? Previous, and took new line. This is empty line, and then some special characters, and difference, because I am dealing with difference or subtraction or whatever you can write like this, and it will print here. It's no big deal. It's just a banner, and this is written by us. Yes, it is not automatic. If you want to write, it's fine. If you don't want to write, it's fine too. So now if I rerun this, it will print the new banner. That's it. Okay, let me just scroll it up for you. Okay, so subtraction. You got the picture, right? What is the purpose of this?
Yes,
The purpose
yes,
is
thank
just
you.
for the banner is just for printing. Why do you use the banner in the real life? Just to show others, right? So I want to show this is for addition, and I want to show this is for subtraction. You can do away with it. There is no issue with it, but if you have it, it will be nice. It looks nice here in the console or in the report also, final report. If you can print it to the console, you can print it anywhere. That is the whole point. So you first of all you have to learn how to print to the console, and you can print it to the PDF also. That's later. That's all just a modification of the same thing. Okay, so everything is clear now. It's not a very big thing. So you can have it or you don't have it. That's okay. Okay, let's jump to the product immediately because we are running out of time. Okay, now likewise I created one more function for product. What is the purpose? Just to get a product of these, multiply the two of them and send me the number or print it. Okay, simple function, and this is what I want to call here. So all I need to do is just pass the values. I'll uncomment it. So all I'm doing is uncommenting slowly, so that you can now you have to practice this more, so you will get a hands-on. Otherwise there is no point in it. Now all I'm doing is using the object. I'm accessing this function product, and it will ask okay. Now again, because I'm writing, just to avoid the typing every time, it will take a lot of time. So I'll just type once. If you get it out, how do you write actually, you can ask me. So object dot product is already there, see, or you can just type partially. Okay, so it will show you. Okay, now you have to choose. There will be many other functions. Don't choose others. Our function is product in the arithmetic demo, so you can clearly read it from here. Okay, now it will automatically ask you whatever you want to enter. If you don't enter, it will throw error. So you have to enter some integer. The A and B are integers. If you enter other values like A, B, C, it won't accept. So it's again pertaining to the data type you have declared it as. So I want to get a product of 8 and 9, let's say, and semicolon. That's it. That's how we call it. And I called a bunch of them like this. Okay. Now let's try to execute them simply. It will print the products. Okay. Product of 1 and 3 before this 8 and before this banner. 8 and 9 is 72. 1 and 3 is 3. So and so, and some negative numbers and some 0. 0 into something is 0. Okay. Simple as that. You can have more. Just call more, and that way you create some functions also. I will give you some homework too. And then finally division for today. Okay. So division, I'm cutting it here because this needs overloading concept. That is next class. Okay. Now I am simply calling division function. What is the division function? Again, just divide one number by other in the sequential order. Okay, obviously when I divide A by B, it returns a quotient, right? Quotient is something. It could be 4 divided by 2 is quotient is 2. Okay, and since I'm accepting integers, it can have some residue value also. So that's fine because we are not accepting the double numbers or floating numbers. This is fine. We will see those values later. Double divide is later. Okay. So without changing the function name, how do I pass different argument lists? So that is called overloading. So don't worry about this. This is the next class. So we'll simply run this again with the division. So I want to divide 4 by 2. So you already know the answer. It's 2. And when this number is divided by 34, what is the quotient? And remainder or residue could be 0 or some number. That doesn't matter because it's integer. It will ignore those values. So you will always get the quotient in the integer form only because we have defined it such. We are returning the integer only. So complications are later. So just we are dealing with the integers for the time being. Okay. Now let's rerun this for the division. Okay, so I wrote it explicitly for understanding purposes. The quotient when 4 is divided by 2 is 2. You can write it in whichever way you want to. That's up to you. But this is very explicit. If you don't write it like this, you don't know which is divided by which. Either you are doing 4 by 2 or 2 by 4. You don't know, right? So that's why the quotient when 4 is divided by 2 is 2. Okay, now second one is the quotient when this number is divided by this number is this much, so and so. And also let's try to divide 0 by 23. 0 by 23 is 0. And one more case is when you divide something by 0, it's infinite, right? So let's see, it's actually not defined, it's infinite or undefined, and it's not, is it acceptable or not? Let's see. So let me use object dot divide 343 by 0, and it's going to throw an error or exception. So let's see about that. The topic is totally different, but I'll just throw a light on it. So last one, if you see, I'm dividing something by 0. In real life, it is undefined or infinite, right? But in Java world, it throws an exception called arithmetic exception divided by 0. Okay, so that means it is runtime error. I showed you, right? There are some two types of errors. One is compile time error, one is runtime error. Compile time error is simply if you make a mistake in the coding like this. This is a compile time error. That means it's not accepting some, you have to put some number. That's what it is. And there could be other also, like if I don't include semicolon, that's a compile time error. It will be shown right here, so that I can rectify it. Runtime errors, you cannot rectify it unless and until you execute them, and this is one of those. Everything is fine from coding perspective, but the runtime perspective, this is not correct because it will throw runtime exception. And what is that exception? Exception is defined in the Java again, and this is in java.lang.arithmetic exception, and exception name is divided by 0. Okay, now how do you know which line this exception occurred? You just click on this hyperlink and it will take you to the line number 64 automatically. See, and it is clearly saying this is where your exception is. So it is clearly saying what kind of exception. Divided by 0 means you divided by 0. That's why the exception occurred. Now you can rectify it. Either you don't put 0 or you put something else, or you just delete that line. That's it. Okay. So in this case, I'll just keep it like this and comment it so that you can read it later. So when I'll just share this with you, these two classes, so that you can read it. So what we are going to do is we are going to use GitHub also, which is new for you, but hopefully in tomorrow's class lab session, we don't have class tomorrow. Russell will show you how to create an account in GitHub and how to fork code, how to import, export the code, and how to import that code into your Eclipse. Those things will be shown tomorrow probably, but if not, I'll show it to you later. But for the time being, I'll share these two files. You can put it anywhere, but you are going to get errors because you have to put it in the appropriate packages. Why? Because the package declaration is important. In the package this, you have to declare the package appropriately. Okay, library is the package here. Okay, so I'll share this with you. You try. If you fail, that's fine too. You can put all of them in a single class. That is also fine. Okay, and practice more. So now your homework is, I'm going to put the homework in this. So till this, it's done. Instantiation, same thing I showed you. So same write up for the instantiation, and we are going to see the conditional statements later. Okay, static and non-static is over. So your homework is create a reusable function for what is left over. Let's say simple. Okay, for simple function that returns the twice value of passed number. Okay, so example is if you pass 2, it has to return 4, double. double. I didn't use the word double because it's a keyword. So twice the value. If I pass 23, it has to return 46. Just simple as that. Okay. So create a function. You call it twice value or something, whatever you want to, and just call it in the test. Create it in demo and call it in the test. So use the same structure. Okay. For the time being, you create it, but when we share, you will be able to share exactly. Import that code and do the homework in your. So twice the value of pass number and print it to the console. Simple. Can you do that? Same thing. Instead of addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, you just create a double value or twice value, something like this. Okay. It's very simple. You will get one value only, and you will have to return the exact twice the size of it. Just take integer only and print it like this. You can copy paste, but it has to do the exact same thing. All right. Very simple, not complicated. Okay. So I'll end this class today, and you will get these notes in the email, and I can also put this in the Google Drive. Okay. You can ask for the recording to Assad, so he will share those to us. And tomorrow, hopefully, the GitHub session will be taken so that we can share this code as and when we are done for the day. We can share this code in the GitHub so that you can immediately take from there. So that will be the real time, I mean, project wise. Project wise, it will be good because in the project also we share using GitHub or Git or Subversion or SVN or these kind of version controlling tools. So any doubts today's class?
No.
Okay, so nobody has any more doubts. We can call it a day. Catch you in the next class hopefully on Tuesday. Okay, guys.
Okay, thank you.